Alright, this your boy, brother Brandon Judah, man. Definitely about to do this lesson at Burger King, man. We're gonna be looking at Genesis, the 6th chapter, concerning the wickedness of man. We're gonna prove to you that basically there is no such thing as fallen angels. So let's get with the lesson. I wanna say all praises due to Yahawah, Shem Yahawashi. Double honor to the elders that's teaching this truth and sincerity and salutation to the brothers on the street corners that have found the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And we are doing this lesson concerning Genesis chapter 6, proving that there are no such thing as fallen angels. So let's get to it. This is Genesis chapter 6. We're going to read this. And it came to pass, when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them. Verse 2, that the sons of God saw the daughters of man, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. All right? So like I say, man, I already have the precepts outlined and everything. You know what I'm saying? This whole entire chapter is outlined. So let's go back over it. It says, came to pass, when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and that the daughters were born unto them. All right? It says, verse 2, that the sons of God saw the daughters of man, that they were fair. Now the sons of God, okay, has nothing to do with angels. All right? Has nothing to do with angels. The sons of God has nothing to do with angels, but many will assume that because of the book of Job. All right? So they would say that the sons of God are angels concerning the book of Job. You must understand that there are three categories of man. All right? You have the sons of God, which are the Israelites. You have the sons of man, which are the other nations. And then you have the sons of the wickedness, which are the Edomites, all right? The descendants of Esau, which is reincarnated Cain, all right? Children of Cain, children of Esau, the Edomites, they are the sons of the wicked. The other nations are the sons of men, and the Israelites are the sons of God, the holy lineage, the righteous lineage, all right? Let's go back into verse 2 concerning this. It said that the sons of God saw the daughters of man, that they were fair. They took them wives of all which they chose. The sons of God are talking about the Sethites. All right? I'm going to show you this. So let's go to the book of Luke right quick. We're going to go to the book of Luke. I'm going to show you this. Concerning these sons of God, Genesis chapter 6. We're going to look at chapter 3 in the book of Luke, concerning these sons of God. And we're going to look at the 23rd verse. It's talking about the genealogy of Christ, all right? So let's look at the 23rd verse out of St. Luke. So I'm going to read verse 23, and then I'll just elaborate on it. So it says, and Jesus himself began to be about 30 years. Now this is Jesus Christ is Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Himself began to be about 30 years of age. All right, because that's when he began his ministry. Well, he began his ministry at the age of 30. All right, so he began to be 30 years of age, being as was supposed the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli. Now it's going to go from the time of Christ, Yahawashi, is going back from his genealogy, going back in the beginning of time to let you know basically the descendants of him. Okay? The genealogy, the root word of genealogy is genes. So it's talking about Yahawashi, Christ, his genes, his genealogy, his descendants, his family line that he come from out of, backing up with Christ that goes down to Joseph, all right? Then it says Joseph, which was the son of Heli. And then if you look at the 24th verse, it goes back, which was the son of Mathat, which was the son of Levi, which was the son of Malachi, which was the son of Janah, which was the son of Joseph. All right. And if you continue to read, it goes all the way down. Okay. It goes all the way down from the 23rd, beginning with Christ, backing all the way up, his descendants, his lineage, the genealogy. If you continue to read, it goes all the way down, goes all the way down. Let's take a look at verse 36. It says, which was the son of Canaan, all right, which was the son of Aphaxad, which was the son of Sem. That's Shem, basically, Sem, which was the son of Noah. That's Noah, which was the son of Lamech, which was the son of Methuselah, going all the way back, which was the son of Enoch, which was the son of Jared, which was the son of Melaleel, which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, all right? And it says, which was the son of God. So the sons of God concerning Genesis chapter 6 are the patriarchs, all right, the Sethites, the righteous man, the godly man that came from out of the bloodline of Seth, all right? So that's who the sons of God are concerning Genesis chapter 6. Now, a lot of people get confused in the book of Job, so let's go to the book of Job, all right? A lot of people get confused on the book of Job because the book of Job mentions the sons of God as well, and these are not angels, okay? These are also the patriarchs, the godly lineage, the righteous man, or the bloodline of self. So I'm going to show you Job, because this is where lots of people think that the sons of God are angels concerning the book of Job, chapter 1. So let's get into that. Chapter 1. Let's look at verse 6. All right. Chapter 1 and 6. It says, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. All right. Verse 7. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro into the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So right here, a lot of churches, they consider the sons of God concerning Job chapter 1 verse 6, the sons of God are angels, because it says that they came to present themselves before the Most High, and Satan also came among them. But it's not talking about the sons of God concerning Job chapter 1 and 6 as being angels. The sons of God were the Sethites, all right? The sons of God was a title, let's put it like this. Before the name Israel came into effect, sons of God was manifested throughout the earth. That was the title before the name of Israel came into effect. Alright? So Job chapter 1 and 6, it mentions the sons of God. It's not talking about angels. These are the Sethites. These are the godly lineage, the righteous, the holy lineage that come from out of the bloodline of self. They were called the sons of God. Alright? And we just proved that concerning the book of Luke. Alright? So they say they came to present themselves, because what were they doing back then? What were they doing back then? Alright? When it says they came to present themselves before the Lord, Satan came among them. Because back then, these holy men, which were called the sons of God in Job's time, they was keeping the laws. Alright? Way before the law, way before Moses really just initiated the law and brought the law into full effect and established the law throughout the earth. The law was always from the beginning of time, and these sons of God, they was keeping the law from the beginning of time. Alright? And the book of Job, what most people don't understand, is an ancient book. The book of Job was about, basically the book of Job was probably around the time of Abraham. Alright? So the Bible is not in chronicle order. Okay? The Bible is not in chronicle order. Okay? Job was actually around the time of Abraham. So you gotta understand, from Abraham back to the lineages, Abraham backing up to self, they were called the sons of God. Alright? So the sons of God came to present themselves before the Most High. Why? Let's look at Deuteronomy 16 and verse 16. Concerning why did the Son of God come to present themselves before the Most High concerning Job 1 and 6. Alright? So we're going to look at Deuteronomy 16 and 16. Deuteronomy 16 and 16. Deuteronomy 16 and 16. Don't know if you can see this. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before the Most High, thy God, in the place which he shall choose, and in the feast of the unleavened bread. That's a holy day. In the feast of the weeks, holy day. In the feast of tabernacle, that's a holy day. It says, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. So this is why concerning Job 1 and 6, when it says that there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Most High, they came up to keep the holy days concerning Deuteronomy 16 and 16. When it says that 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before the Lord thy God in place where he shall choose. For the feast of unleavened bread, that's a holy day. Feast of the weeks, feast of the tabernacles, holy days, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty-handed. So that's the reason why the sons of God concerning Job 1 and 6 came to present themselves before the Most High. Satan came also among them. All right. Now you must realize, man, in the midst of doing right, in the midst of righteousness, evil is always present. You see what I'm saying? So there was some negativity around these sons of man, sons of God, when they came before the Most High to keep these holy days and these feasts. That it was some wicked people among them, man. All right. Because the word Satan means the adversary. All right. So that's what it's talking about. It's not talking about sons of God as being angels, you know. But some people are unlearned, man. Right? And we could do a full breakdown on this. For the sake of time, we're gonna keep it moving. So the sons of God are actually the patriarchs. The patriarchs. And if you look at Job 1, verse 3, it says, Job 1 and 3, it says, his substance also was 7,000 sheep, telling you Job belongings. It says, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household. All right? So that this was the greatest of all men of the East. Now, it shouldn't be men of the East. The scholars put man there. It should be sons of the East. All right? So it said men of the East. All right? So when you look up men, you have to get you a strong concordance. All right? If you look up men in the strong concordance concerning Judges 18:11, that'll be the Hebrew 376, which is Ayash. Ayash. Hebrew and the strong concordance 376, man is Ayash. Hebrew 582, man is Enosh. And Hebrew Enosh concerning Hebrew 582. Alright. So if you look up man, it's basically talking about, you have to look up all the men concerning the concordance and the strong concordance. But you will notice it says being as men. And it's talking about being as the son. Alright? So the sons, being in Hebrew means son. So it's talking about not men of the East, it's talking about sons of the East. So when you read Job chapter 1 verse 3, it say men of the East. It's supposed to be sons of the East. Alright? So basically it was changed by the scholars. So the sons of God concerning the book of Job was patriarchs that came from out of the bloodline of self. Now let's look at Genesis chapter 5. All right. We're gonna do a quick review. Genesis chapter 5 talk about the genealogy of the age of the patriarchs. Okay. It says, verse 3, it says, Adam lived 100 and begat a son, called his name Seth. It says, in the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So we're going to jump down for the sake of time. It says, verse 6 out of Genesis chapter 5, and Seth lived and begat Enos. All right? Then verse 9 says, and Enos lived and begat Canaan. Then verse 12 says, and Canaan lived and begat Mahalalel. Verse 15 says, and Mahalalel begat Jared. Verse 18 says, Jared lived and begat Enoch. Verse 21 says, Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. Alright. Verse 25 says, Methuselah lived and begot Lamech. Alright. Verse 28 says, Lamech lived and begot a son and called his name Noah. And then verse 32 says, Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Alright? And all these concerning Genesis 5th chapter was called the patriarchs from the godly lineage, from the holy lineage of Seth. They was called the Sethites, and they children from out of that lineage of Seth was called the sons of God. Alright? But the children of Cain, let's not forget Cain and Seth were brothers. Cain and Seth were brothers. The children of Cain was not called the sons of God. They was called the sons of the wicked. Alright? We're going to show you this. Let's look at the genealogy of Cain. Let's look at Genesis, the 4th chapter, verse 17. It said, and Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. Okay? So Cain had his first child, Enoch. Alright? This is the lineage of Cain. And he built a city after his son's name, Enoch. Alright? It says, and Enoch born Arad. See? And then it says, Arad begot Mahaziel, and Mahaziel begot Methuselah, and Methuselah begot Lamech. Now these two Lamech are different, okay? This is the Lamech concerning the lineage of Cain, not the Lamech concerning the lineage of Seth. Alright? And then it goes on in verse 19 and tell you about Lamech's family. It says, Lamech took him 2 wives, and the name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah, and Ada bare Jabal, and it goes all the way down. Okay? And it's just talking about the lineage, the genealogy of Cain, which are the wicked ones, the sons of the wicked. Alright? And it goes down into the 24th chapter, talking about the sons of the wicked, which are the lineage of Cain. Alright? Alright, but when it gets down to verse 25, it talks about the birth of Seth, how Seth was born. Okay? And it says, verse 26, and to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. And then from chapter 5 out of Genesis, it goes down from chapter 5 out of Genesis, showing you the patriarchs, the holy lineage, the Sethites, the children of righteousness, the sons of God. That's what they was called. That's what they were called before they was called the Israelites. Alright, but the children of Cain was called the sons of wickedness. How do we know that? Let's get you 1 John 3 and 10. Alright? So we're going to 1 John 3 and 10 to let you see that the children of Cain lineage was called sons of the wicked. 1 John 3 and 10. It says, and this the children of God are manifest, and the children of the devil, whosoever does not righteousness, is not of God, neither he that loveth not his brother. Okay, verse 11 out of 1 John chapter 3. It says, for this is the message that ye heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. All right. Verse 12, it said, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one. It says, so we shouldn't be like Cain, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one and slew his brother. Yeah, because Cain slew Adam in the Garden of Eden. All right. So, not as Cain, who was that wicked one who slew his brother. And wherefore slew he him? Because his own works were evil, and his brother's righteousness. So it say we shouldn't be not as Cain. We shouldn't be not as Cain, who was what? That wicked one. So Cain lineage, his bloodline was wicked. But on the other hand, Seth lineage, his bloodline was righteous. And they were called the sons of God, concerning Genesis chapter 6. And not only Genesis chapter 6, concerning Job chapter 1. All right. So let's go back into Genesis chapter 6, and now we're going to read over Genesis chapter 6, beginning with verse 1. It says, "And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters was born unto them." All right, the sons of God. Now we can see the sons of God are the righteous ones of the bloodline of self. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men, that they were fair, and that they took them wives of all who they chose. So who was the daughters of man? Who was the daughters of men? Okay? The daughters of men were the sons of the wicked, which came from the bloodline of Cain. And they say these sons of God, these righteous men that came from the righteous bloodline of self, it says they took them wives which they chose. Alright? So I'm going to show you that these are not angels coming down from heaven marrying daughters of men. These are not angels coming down from heaven. And otherwise, these are not angelic beings intermingling with humanistic women. Right? How do we know that? I'm going to give you St. Matthew 22nd chapter, verse 29, stopping on 30. So that's Matthew 22 and 29. St. Matthew 22, 29. All right. Now, let me explain this before we get into St. Matthew 22, 29. Okay. 22nd chapter, that is the 29th verse. But before we read verse 29, I want to go over verse 23. All right. It says, now, we're going to back up. We're going to get in St. Matthew 22nd chapter. We're going to get on the 29th verse, but let me back up and explain this, all right, concerning the resurrection. Because the Sadducees, they didn't believe in the resurrection. In other words, they didn't believe in the reincarnation, all right? But the Pharisees, on the other hand, they believed in reincarnation. The Sadducees did not believe in reincarnation, all right? They believe, basically, you know what I'm saying, like, men only live once upon the earth, and after that man is destroyed, that it's over with, basically. That he has no second chance in the afterlife or whatsoever. That's how the Sadducees believe. They didn't believe in the reincarnation. They didn't believe in the resurrection. They believe in the form of YOLO. You only live once. So it says that concerning verse 23. Let me read that right quick, and then I'll jump back down to verse 29. It says, "The same day came to him the Sadducees, which say there's no resurrection, and asked him." See, the Sadducees, they didn't believe in resurrection. They didn't believe in the reincarnation, right? They say they asked him, all right? They was asking Yahawashi, who the world called Jesus Christ. They were asking him a question. They said, Master Moses basically said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and shall raise up the seed to his brother, right? It says, verse 25, it says, now there were with us 7 brothers. And the first, when he had married a wife, deceased. So one of the brothers died, leaving the wife behind, right? It says, and having no issue left his wife and to his brother. Likewise, the second, so the first brother died, didn't have kids from his wife, so his brother married his wife to bear seed after his first brother that died, but he didn't leave any children as well, right? It said likewise the second also, and the third until the 7th. Verse 27, and last of all the woman died also. So let me explain this. The Sadducees were saying that, all right, that it was this certain woman, that this man had 7 brothers. This man was married to a woman, but he didn't leave behind seed. He didn't leave any kids. He died. So the man brother took the wife after their brother died, but he didn't leave seed behind. And she went basically throughout all the 7 brothers not leaving children behind. Last but not least, the woman died. All right. The Sadducees asked Yahawashi. They said, therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? Basically, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of these 7 men that she didn't leave any seed behind, right? And they say because these 7 brothers, they all had the woman. All right. This is what Yahawashi said, Jesus Christ. He answered and said unto them, ye do err, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of God. Just like you other cats out there, man. So-called pastors, these false pastors, these ministers, evangelists, Pharisees. Y'all don't know the scriptures, man. It said, knowing the scriptures, knowing the powers of God. Verse 30, it says, for in the resurrection, they neither marry, nor are given into marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven, because the angels don't marry, man. That's why I say they don't marry. All right, so this, in the spirit world, it's no marriage, it's no sexual intercourse, it's no sexual affairs, it's none of that in the spirit world. Okay, because when you become a spirit, you become like the angels. You become like the angels of God, the celestial being. You leave the terrestrial and become an extraterrestrial being. You become a celestial being. And in the spirit world, you don't marry, nor are you given into marriage, but you are as the angel of God in heaven. So the angels don't marry. So okay, so before Jacob came on the scene, they was called sons of God before they was called Israelites. After Jacob came on the scene, Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and then they became the Hebrew Israelites. All right. Well, Hebrew was the language they were speaking from the beginning. They just became the Israelites. They was called sons of God before they became the Israelites. I'm just putting that out there. So let's go back to Israel. Chapter 9, verse 1. Now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land. All right? All this interracial marriage, man. All this intermingling with different nations. They did not separate themselves from the people of the lands, different nations, doing according to their abomination, even of the Canaanites, Africans, Hittites, Africans, Perizzites, Africans, Jebusite, Africans, Ammonites, Chinese, Moabites, Ammonites, Ammonites, Japanese, Moabites, Chinese, the Egyptians, Africans, and Amorites. All right. So, verse 2, for they have taken of the daughters of themselves, and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. And that's what they did according to Genesis chapter 6, man. So when it speaks on the sons of God sleeping with the daughters of man, that was the holy seed intermingling with the children of the wickedness, right? In Genesis chapter 6. All right. So it says they have not. It says they have mingled themselves with the people. This is verse 2 out of Ezra chapter 9. For they have taken their daughters. Daughters of man, concerning Genesis chapter 6. They have taken their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yeah, the hand of the princes and the ruler have been chief and the trespass. So you can see right here, it says that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people, because the sons of God were the holy seed, man. They was from the godly lineage. They was from that lineage of self. Self was chose to be that righteous seed. Cain was the seed of wickedness, man. So concerning Ezra chapter 9, verse 1 and 2, it said these sons of God, they mingled them. They mingled the holy seed with other nations, man, wicked nations. So the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6 are the S.F.I.M that mingled themselves with the daughters of man, which are the wicked seed of Cain. All right, they were fair and they took them as wives, or which they chose. All right. Verse 3 out of Genesis chapter 6. And the Most High said, my spirit shall not strive with men, not angels, men, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. All right. So he put stipulation on man, because back then man was living for long periods of time. He said his days shall be 120 years. I'm gonna give these men 120 years to get their act together. But they didn't. The descendants of the Sethites, they didn't get their act together, man. All right. We're gonna show you another one concerning the sons of God out of Genesis chapter 6 when it said they saw the daughters of man. I'm gonna give you Deuteronomy chapter 7. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7. And we're gonna read Deuteronomy 7 and chapter 1. We go on down to finish. Deuteronomy 7 and 1. I'm just letting you see that the sons of God were not to intermingle with the daughters of man. It says, when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whether thou goest to possess it, talking about the land of Canaan, all right? Telling the Israelites when they get into that land to possess that land, and had cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, Africans, Girgashites, Africans, Amorites, Africans, Canaanites, Africans, Perizzites, Africans, Hivites, Africans, Jebusites, Africans, 7 nations that are greater and mightier than thou, because the land of Canaan was inherited by Africans, man. That was African territory. And the reason why it was called the land of Canaan is because that land was named after Canaan, man, the son of Ham. All right? But he was bringing the Israelites into that land, and that land of Canaan would become Israel. That land of Canaan will become that holy land, all right? It says, verse 2 out of Deuteronomy 7. It says, and when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages. This is verse 3 out of Deuteronomy chapter 7. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt take unto thy son. So that's talking about, man, when you go into the land of Canaan, you Israelites, when you go into the inhabit that land, you're not to deal with these Africans, man. You're not to be intermingling with these African women, having interracial sex, having children from the other nations. And like I said, man, this concerning Deuteronomy 7 and 1, going down to 3, it's just concerning Genesis chapter 6, man, when it's talking about the sons of God that married the daughters of man. This is the origin of interracial sex, man. This is the origin of interracial marriage. This is the origin of the holy seed of the Most High mingling with the other nations of wickedness, man. That's the origin of it, all right? So let's go down to verse 4, man. We'll read a little bit more. We'll close out. Verse 4, it says, there were giants in the earth in those days. Now, when you look up giants in the Hebrew, in the concordance, in the Hebrew, 5303, just look at 5303, 5303, giants. 5303 in the Hebrew is Nephil, or Nephilim. So there was Nephilim in that giant in those days. So what does Nephilim mean? Nephilim means fallen ones. All right. There was men in those days who fell from the righteousness of the Most High. Also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, when the sons of the righteousness, when the S.F.I.Ms, that holy lineage, that righteous, that godly lineage went off, their descendants went off, and they came into the wicked daughters, the seed of Cain. When they came into these wicked daughters that came from the lineage of Cain, they bare children to them. The same became mighty men. Mighty men, which were old men of renown. Right? So they was mighty men. They was very popular men. That's all they're talking about. It's not talking about they was, you know what I'm saying, 40, 50s, 2,000 feet tall, mighty men. It's not talking about that. You can, concerning mighty man, just check out 2 Samuel chapter 10 and 7, and also check out 2 Samuel 23 and 8, because it says that when David killed Goliath, he was a mighty man of fame, and Saul wanted to kill David for his fame, because he became a mighty man when he slayed Goliath. That's all they're talking about, man of fame. Man that was well known, man that was very skillful, all right? Man of renown, all right? Verse 5 out of Genesis chapter 6. And the Most High saw that the wickedness of man, he saw that the wickedness of man, not angels, was great in the earth, and that every imagination of their thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The wickedness of man. Verse 6. And it repented the Most High that he made man. It has nothing to do with celestial beings, man. Come on, Israel, wake up. It repented that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. Verse 7. And the Lord said, I will destroy men, who I have created from the face of the earth. He didn't create the angelic beings from the face of the earth, man. There's two types of flesh, terrestrial and extraterrestrial. He never created celestial beings extraterrestrial from the humanistic realm, from the earth. Alright, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping things of the Father of Yahawah repented me that I made them. So I'm going to stop right there. We're going to go back up and see an estimation of how many times in the book of Genesis chapter 6 it mentions men and not celestial beings and not angels. It says, and the Lord said, my spirit will not strive with men. That's verse 3 out of chapter 6 of Genesis. It says, out of verse 4 out of chapter 6 of Genesis, that in those days there were giants. And then it says that the sons of God came into the daughters of men, that they bear children to them. The same became mighty men, not mighty angels, not mighty celestial creatures, which were old men of renown. Verse 5, and God saw that the wickedness of men was great in the earth, and that every imagination of his thought and his heart was continually evil. Verse 6, and repented the Most High that he made men. Verse 7, and the Lord said, I will destroy men. So you got, in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 3, you have men once. Verse 4, men again, mighty men, men of renown. Verse 5, wickedness of men. Verse 6, made man. Verse 7, destroy man. It has nothing to do with celestial beings. It has nothing to do with angels, man. I know what some of you thinking. And concerning the book of Enoch, alright? They would say that Enoch elaborated on the fallen angels, right? Enoch, where he elaborated on the fallen angels in the book of Enoch, speaks of the fallen angels. Let me lay something out clearly. The book of Enoch that Jude quoted from was not the book of Enoch that they use today. Was not the book of Enoch that has been published today. All right, Jude quoted from an entirely different book of Enoch. The book of Enoch that they publish today is different from the book that Jude quoted from, man. That's what some people fail to realize. It's not the same. The book of Enoch today that they issue out has been tainted, corrupted, and it has been polluted, man. Right? Because when you go into the book of Jude concerning these angels, man, in Jude 1 and 6, it says that the angels which kept not their first estate. They talking about the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. He had reserved in everlasting chains under darkness and to the judgment of the great day. Most people say, see, concerning Jude 1 and 6, the angels which kept not their first estate. They say that talking about the angels that was in the heavens, that they came down. No, that's not. That's talking about the angels that's been the Israelites. They didn't keep their first estate. Wow. They didn't remain holy. They didn't remain righteousness. They didn't remain in righteousness. They became defiled. They became uncircumcised in heart. All right? They became wicked by going off, by going out of the will of God and marrying the wicked seed, the daughters of the king. So they left their first estate. What was their first estate? It left their first estate. We can show you concerning the first estate at Exodus, in the book of Exodus, when it says, Israel is my firstborn. Israel, concerning his first estate out of Jude chapter 6, we're going to go to Exodus to show you about Israel being the firstborn. All right. Let me get you that right quick. Israel is my first son, even my firstborn. Israel is my son, even my firstborn. So out of all the 18 nations in the earth, the nation of Israel was established first, way before Jacob took upon that name, because they were called the sons of God. So Israel said, he said, this is my first son. This is my first son. This is my son, my firstborn. Exodus 4:22. So let's go back to Jude 1:6 when it says the angels which kept not their first estate. They didn't value that first privilege as being the firstborn. They went out, man. They went out of righteousness. But they left their own habitation. They left outside of the house of righteousness. They left. They left their morals, their righteous morals, conduct, standards. They left it. All right. And what did they do? They left that. That first estate, which means the position of rulership, the position and the authority of rulership and the kingship they had in the earth. They left that first estate to go off and sleep with these daughters of man, these wicked women of Cain, man. Alright? But left their first habitation, he reserved it to everlasting chains on the darkness until the judgment of the great day. They say, well, the angels, oh man, that's talking about the angels being chained in a subterranean region. The angels are chained in the heart of the earth, somewhere where man has ever known angels to be. They are incarcerated in the heart of the earth somewhere. That's not talking about that, man. It says that they reserved to everlasting chains. What is it talking about? Let's go to Isaiah 42 and verse 6. Alright? Isaiah 42 and verse 6 concerning the everlasting chains. Isaiah 42 verse 6 concerning the everlasting chains, in Jude chapter 1 verse 6. Isaiah 42 and 6 concerning the everlasting chains. It says, I, the Most High, have called thee in righteousness, and I will hold thy hand, and will keep thee and give thee for a covenant of the people for a light of the Gentiles. Verse 7, listen closely, out of 42 chapter of Isaiah. The 42nd chapter, verse 7. To open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the dark prison. To bring out the prisoners from the dark prison. And them that sit in darkness out of this prison house. Okay? So that's concerning the everlasting chains, man. He had reserved them to everlasting chains because basically they would soon die. The people that done this, the righteous man that went outside of the righteousness of God and married these wicked daughters of Cain, they would actually die. They would come to the point of death and they would be incarcerated to everlasting chains. How? Okay, by being incarnated into a new body, losing all of their righteousness knowledge, losing all of their godly knowledge and edification. All right? They would be bound, reserved to everlasting chains. All right? Because this body is like a prison cell for the soul. Your soul dwells in a body. So the body is like a prison for that soul to dwell in. And that's everlasting chains, man, especially when you come back and you don't have no identification on you being righteous, you being holy, that you was once one of the most holiest, righteous lineages of all time. You be destroyed to come back in a body, totally different body that has no idea who you were in your past life. That's called everlasting change from the darkness into the judgment of the great day, man. That's what it's talking about. Give you another one. Let's look at Isaiah 60 and 2 concerning the everlasting change. And Isaiah 60 and 2. Show you this. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth. The darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. So I was just letting you see basically out of Isaiah 60 and 2, it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth. and the gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. So man, I'm just letting you see, man, these everlasting chains. It's talking about these reincarnated spirits that keep coming back into different bodies that have no biblical knowledge in the beginning who they were. Alright? Verse 7 out of Jude. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner giving themselves over. It says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about themselves in like manner giving themselves over to fornication. Alright? Giving themselves over to fornication. They did it in Sodom and Gomorrah. In like manner giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. Strange flesh. Because the sons of God, which were the righteous, the holiest people of God, they went after strange flesh. They went after other nation of people that were not the sons of God, that were considered strange flesh, man. If you would not consider the sons of God in the beginning of time, and you was from another region or another lineage of some person, if you were not from the S.F.I.M lineage, if you were not from his lineage, if you were not from the lineage of self, you were considered strange, man. Alright? So it says that they giving themselves over to fornication, going after strange flesh. The sons of God went after the Canaanites. The sons of God went after, you know what I'm saying, the children of Canaan. Strange flesh. It set forth, for example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire, because that same old generation will be back on the earth prior, before the second return of Yahawashi. So that strange flesh, man. I'm gonna give you a precept on that strange flesh when we close out. Ezra 10 and 10. Let's look at Ezra 10 and 10 concerning this strange flesh out of Jude. Ezra 10 and 10. Concerning this strange flesh. Alright? Let me show you this. Ezra 10 and 10. It says, and Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, ye have transgressed. Okay, he's talking to Judah and Benjamin, which are today predominantly Negroes and Jamaicans. Okay, this is Ezra 10 and 10 concerning the strange flesh in Judah. He said, and Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, ye have transgressed and have taken strange wives to increase the trespass of Israel. So it was never meant for the sons of God to go outside of that holy lineage and marry the wicked seed and the daughters of Cain. This is Genesis chapter 6 is the origin of interracial marriage, the origin of intermingling with other nations when we don't have no business doing that. That's all that's talking about, man. And concerning 10 and 10 out of Ezra, chapter 10, verse 10 out of Ezra says, Ezra the priest, Ezra was a high priest, a Levite, talking to Judah and Benjamin, basically the southern kingdom, talking to Judah and Benjamin, Negroes and Jamaicans today, talking to them because they have taken, and Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, this is verse 10 out of Ezra 10, he stood up and said, you have transgressed. You have, Salaki, you have transgressed, and you have taken strange, you have taken strange wives, man, to increase the trespass of Israel. That's what they did in the beginning of time, man. They took upon strange people that wasn't from the godly lineage of self, man. They took strange wives to increase the trespass. That's why he brought the destruction on these descendants of self, man. Because they trespass, man. So I wanted to elaborate on that, man. I hope you were edified. And I might do a part 2. If you have any questions concerning this topic, man, just leave your comments. I'm gonna post the video up. And once again, it's a brother Brandon Judah, man, there to represent the Solid Foundation International Ministries. And with all praises due to Yahawah, Yahawashi, I want to say Barakatah, brothers and sisters, shalom, man.